Hello, everyone, and welcome into the final installment in our series of location-specific webinars for CRCC Asia. Again, my name is Tyler DeVici. I am one of the admissions advisors here with CRCC Asia, and this evening I will be leading you through a presentation surrounding our Seoul internship program. So far we've discussed all of our China locations, we've discussed all of our Japan locations, Ho Chi Minh City, and also Manchester. We are now going to conclude our series by speaking about one of our brand new locations for this summer, which is Seoul, South Korea. So through this presentation, I am going to be leading you through a variety of information surrounding our CRCC Asia internship program. Of course, focusing in specifically on Seoul, talking about some of the placement opportunities, some of the amenities included in that program fee, and of course, discussing on-the-ground support and all of the good stuff surrounding our brand new Seoul program. So, of course, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm very, very thrilled to speak to you about Seoul. As I said before, this is actually one of our brand new locations for the summer 2019. We are launching both our Seoul and our Osaka locations on June 27th. So I know our Seoul team is very, very excited to be welcoming all of our interns this summer. So for those of you who are joining us who are already committed to the program, of course, we're very much excited to welcome you to our internship in a few months. And for those of you who are joining, who are still considering your participation, or maybe you're in the process of conducting your advising call and getting accepted into the program, of course, welcome in as well. I do hope this presentation is informative for you. And without further ado, let's jump right into Seoul. So what I am going to do is share my screen with you just to ensure you're able to see my slides. So give me one moment here to jump into this. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you everybody again for joining me. I do hope you find this presentation to be somewhat interesting and informative. So without further ado, let's discuss our CRCC Asia internship program, beginning with some reasons as to why you would want to maybe do an internship abroad. So first off, one of the major draws to an internship abroad is, of course, the ability to gain a new perspective. Completing an internship abroad is going to open your eyes to a variety of experiences and opportunities that you might not ever have if you decide to, say, remain in your home country or your hometown. For some of you, I recognize and we all understand that this might be your first internship ever. This might be the first time you're ever leaving your home country or maybe even your hometown. And with that, you know, putting yourself into a new environment, a new culture, a new language, a new way of life, it can be daunting at first, but it is really one of the best ways to open your eyes to a new perspective, gaining new insights, of course, experiencing a culture such as South Korea, seeing how they develop technology or do marketing or advertising or tourism, these types of industries, and getting that completely fresh perspective can be very awakening and a really interesting draw to an international internship. Of course, developing on your global network and expanding upon that existing network you might have with connections and supervisors and fellow interns. This is another huge draw to a program such as CRCC Asia. If you've ever spoken to a career coach or done a past internship or worked with anybody in any type of corporate environment, one of the first things you're going to hear is the concept of networking and building upon connections, maintaining those relationships with your supervisor, with fellow interns. This is really one of the best ways to, you know, continue to expand upon your global network. These might be the people that are recommending you for jobs, writing reference letters. Maybe they know of hirings and openings that they can recommend you for. And it's very important to develop that global network, and doing an internship in another country is one of the best ways to meet people, to talk to them, and to learn about your career field and potentially set yourself up for what might be a very successful career internationally. Of course, having this tangible job experience, internship experience in another country is very much a great addition to what could be, you know, a wonderful existing resume or CV. Even if you do have a pretty jam-packed resume with a lot of great experience, being able to kind of spice it up with some type of international experience is really going to take that resume, that CV, to the very next level. For example, if you go to apply for that dream job and your hiring manager is sifting through dozens or maybe even hundreds of applications, it's actually estimated on average a recruiter spends no more than 20 seconds on one resume before moving on to the next one. So what you need to do is prepare your resume as best as possible to stand out. And one of the best ways to do so is, again, to add that work experience internationally. If a hiring manager reads your resume and sees, oh, you did an internship with a tech application in Seoul, South Korea, that's probably not something that they see on every application. And this is a great way for your resume to stand out. And again, just take it to that next level and potentially open up your doors by really kind of differentiating yourself from the crowd. And of course, the last but definitely not least benefit to an international internship would be just the personal growth and independence that is going to come with this type of program. As I spoke about a little bit before, putting yourself out there, jumping into a new environment, and really looking to challenge yourself with this type of program really shows a lot of initiative on your part. Not only does this look great for employers who want interns and applicants who are willing to put themselves out there to challenge themselves, to overcome issues they may face or adapt to new surroundings. Those are obviously excellent, but just that personal growth and what you learn about yourself after this experience and how you adapt and how you overcome and how you maybe transition to a new environment. And who knows, maybe after completing this experience, you've learned so much about yourself and you've learned about maybe what you want to do with your life or what you don't want to do. That is, of course, one of the big draws to an internship is learning more about your industry and getting that hands-on experience to potentially learn if you want to continue with this type of field or if you want to change. And again, with that change and growth with your, personally, in addition to professionally, is a very large draw to an international internship and is something that I would recommend everybody take part in some point in their life to open up those doors. So now kind of honing in specifically in on Seoul and some reasons that you might want to intern in a city such as Seoul. Again, this is our first summer running Seoul, so we are thrilled to be entering into Seoul. We think that it brings a lot of opportunities for a variety of sectors and a variety of draws to Seoul that I'm definitely going to be speaking with you in a moment. And of course, if you have any additional questions, I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the presentation, but if there's any questions that you have about the programs or anything that I don't cover, please feel free to drop a chat question in the chat. I have the chat open and on my other screen, so please feel free to drop a question and I'll be sure to answer that when I can get to it. So the first, just kind of a little bit of an overview of Seoul, South Korea. Seoul is currently the governmental capital of South Korea. It is also the largest city by population, and subsequently it is the largest visited city, the most visited city in all of South Korea. The Seoul metropolitan area actually is ranked currently as the 4th largest metropolitan economy in the world, really showing a lot of initiative and innovation on the Seoul's part and really providing a great landscape for an internship program. The Seoul capital area is actually home to 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Within South Korea itself, there are 13 sites, but Seoul has 5 alone in its own city limits, which is amazing, giving you great opportunities to see some wonderfully world-renowned sites while you're there in your free time. Seoul, of course, South Korea, home to some cultural exports such as K-pop and esports, which have seemed to kind of make their way all around the world. But both of these really do have their home in South Korea. And of course, while we are able to facilitate you in a placement in any one of our 14 sectors, we do find some pretty substantial placements in areas such as business, technology, marketing, and also tourism and travel. So just a brief overview of a map of South Korea. One thing you will notice about the country is that it is rather small. For example, if you have Seoul here in the top corner right here, kind of this top northwest corner, you can actually take a high-speed railway from Seoul all the way to the southeast to Busan, and it only would take you about 2.5 hours to make that train ride. And Busan in the south has a lot of the beaches. It's a very nice kind of weekend getaway from Seoul. So if you are somebody who's looking to get some time away, maybe finish up your internship on a Friday afternoon, head on the high-speed railway, and make it down in Busan in time for dinner and watching the sunset on the beach. Sounds like the perfect weekend getaway to me. So of course, one of the first major draws to an internship in Seoul is giving yourself the opportunity to partake in what I like to call the South Korean innovation. South Korea, and especially Seoul, is one of those locations that is way up there in terms of innovation, up there with Japan and China and some of the European countries, in which they're really working to thrive themselves on creating the next biggest and best thing, whether it's in the tech landscape or, again, the next best marketing campaign or company. The automotive industry is obviously incredibly vast there. Companies such as Hyundai and Kia, large tech corporations like Samsung, LG. So this type of landscape does provide an absolutely wonderful, wonderful location for an internship program, gaining industry experience, top-notch global connections at some of these amazing companies, and really allowing you to step into that innovative landscape and see that type of innovation and breakthrough firsthand. Of course, Seoul is very much a technology of the future city. It's actually currently Seoul is one of the world leaders in internet connectivity. Actually, on average, Seoul provides the fastest average internet speed. They also currently offer free Wi-Fi access in all of their outdoor spaces, not just indoor, but also outdoor parks, areas such as that. A very interesting fact about Seoul is that they actually plan to introduce 5G connectivity commercially in March 2019. Now 5G, currently, we have 4G LTE on our phones and all of our data, but 5G is actually, it's already been introduced, but it's only available in very specific areas, very small pockets, by no means available yet for a vast commercial use. And Seoul is going to be the first major city to do that, which again provides a huge landscape for technological placements. If you're interested in working on apps or doing coding or software or hardware, anything related to tech, maybe even a business position or marketing position or sales position related anything to the technological sector, you couldn't have chosen a better location in Seoul for that. And of course, with that specific internship placement, one of the things that CRCC Asia is able to offer is a placement in any type of company, large or small. One of the benefits of having our Seoul business team have those connections with all those companies is that if you're somebody who's looking to really gain experience in a startup landscape, you really want to make your own business one day, you want to learn about the startup sector in a major city like Seoul, our business team in Seoul can make that happen for you. We can also then look at the other side. Maybe you're somebody who really wants to jump into a large corporation, a large finance firm, or a large marketing firm. We can also try to hone in on that as well. Or maybe you're somebody who's in the middle. You kind of want a small to medium enterprise company, you kind of get the best of both worlds, or maybe no preference at all. Our Seoul team can speak to you when you do have that advising call with your admissions advisor. They're going to speak to you about the types of internships you'd want, and also subsequently if you have a preference for the size company. And with Seoul, you do have all those options and a variety of ways in which you can experience an internship, large or small. And of course, kind of more so on the entertainment leisure side of South Korea and Seoul, as I said before, Seoul is home to some major cultural exports that have made their way all around the world, most notably things like K-pop and esports. And so while you are, of course, in Seoul completing your internship, gaining a lot of those connections and developments and growth, as I've spoken about before, we also want to encourage you to experience all of South Korea. Get out and try all the wonderful dishes and all the wonderful foods they offer. Go explore some of the historical sites, the parks, the museums. And of course, if you're interested in things like K-pop, go to a K-pop concert. See if there's a BTS concert or Big Bang or one of those major esports companies, League of Legends or StarCraft. Go and see a major esports event. Definitely just go out there and see all of Seoul. And really encouraging you to explore and experience some of these phenomenons that, as I said before, have made their way all across the world, and see them where they began, where they started in Seoul. And of course, again, with that more so on kind of the leisure side is the ability to glimpse some very ancient sites in the history of Seoul. As I said before, Seoul itself is actually home to 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. There are 13 total across the entire country, but within the city limits, there are 5 sites for you to go see, along with a variety of other, as I said, museums, parks, palaces. This is one of the main gates of one of the most famous palaces in all of Seoul. This palace was actually built in the 1300s, so it is quite old. Again, giving you the chance to literally walk through the gates of history and experience a history that in a country such as the US, this is only theoretically a few hundred years old. We don't really have this type of ancient history. So it is fascinating to give you the chance to go out and to see that type of history firsthand in Seoul. So that's kind of more so Seoul in a nutshell. We've spoken about some of the draws to the program and, of course, discussing some of the benefits of doing an internship abroad. Again, I do want to remind you to post your questions in the comments. If you do have any questions about the program, feel free to drop those in the chat. But now what I want to do is just bring you through a lot of information surrounding the internship itself. These are probably areas that I know as an admissions advisor, I get a lot of questions about. So I do want to try and explain this as best as I can. To try to alleviate any questions. The first point kind of making to be what is included in that program fee. So you will notice all of our programs, regardless of location, will have a program fee associated with it. We do provide you with, of course, that guaranteed internship placement in one of your 3 sectors of choice. We also provide you with visa processing, fees, and support. That's going to also depend on your location and your citizenship. We also provide you with fully furnished accommodation for your duration of stay, airport pickup services bringing you back to the accommodation, hosting a variety of cultural events, business events, volunteering events, and of course another benefit of having that program team in Seoul is that they are able to facilitate 24-hour support. We actually have a live-in staff member in all of our locations, and again, providing emergency support, advising support, anything you may need while you are on the ground with us for your internship. So again, some of the amenities would include things like airport pickup. So our program team will come and pick you and the other interns up from the airport and bring you back to the accommodation so everybody gets to where they need to be and try to just kind of alleviate some of that confusion with that first arrival. Of course, providing fully furnished accommodation for the duration of your stay. The accommodation is going to vary, of course, depending on your location. This is an example of what a typical accommodation in somewhere like Seoul or even, say, Japan could look like. Basically, every intern has their own bedroom area, but you would share the living quarters, the living room, the kitchen, the bathrooms, etc., with, say, 2 or 3 other CRCC Asia interns. But for the most part, we do try to keep all the interns relatively in the same building, just to kind of make things a little bit easier and have everybody in one place. Another big draw to our program is facilitating an induction day. So when all the interns arrive the following day, we have our big welcome induction day, speaking with our program management team and just talking to you about some of the things you will encounter for your internship, giving you some insight into the landscape of Seoul, what you might experience on a day-to-day level, maybe introducing you to some basic Korean phrases on how to get around, how to get on the subway, things like that. So just kind of trying to welcome you and, of course, if you have any questions, our program team is ready and willing to speak to you during that event. Again, another amenity that we do provide is first day drop-off. So when you begin your internship on that following Monday after you arrive, our team will actually take each intern individually to their internship, just ensuring that the introduction between you and your supervisor goes according to plan. And then we actually from there will, again, take you to the internship on your first day, and then from then on you will be responsible for taking yourself to and from the internship. Another big draw to our program, again, in addition to those amenities, is providing a variety of events to keep the interns engaged during their program. So these are a couple different areas, one of which is community outreach events. So giving you the chance to give back to that community. You will be living as a member of, say, the Seoul community for either 1, 2, or 3 months, depending on your duration. We want to give you the chance to give back to that community if you are interested, doing things like volunteering with the food bank or going and volunteering with the after school program at the local elementary school, or a community cleanup or anything along those lines, again, just to kind of give back and feel good about what you're doing. Another aspect of the events are the cultural events. So this is actually a photo from our Tokyo team. The interns participated in a calligraphy lesson. As you can see, all the interns are wearing what is known as the yukata, which is kind of the traditional, it's more so of kind of a casual, maybe everyday outfit as opposed to, say, a more formal kimono. This is what you would wear kind of every day in the summer to maybe just walk around. But as you can see, they were taught how to do calligraphy. So in Seoul, this could maybe be things like go to karaoke, or maybe doing a walking tour of the city, going to one of the amusement parks in Seoul or one of the heritage sites. Again, just kind of working to better introduce you to the landscape and the culture of Seoul, in addition to obviously the internship component that we do provide. And of course, the last area of the events, in addition to volunteering and cultural events, would be business seminar, business events. Again, one of the biggest emphases on our program is the networking aspect, the business development aspect, the professional growth aspect. So maybe we go to visit a large finance corporation and speak with one of the executives, or we have a panel discussion with a group of people who've created their own tech app. There's just a variety of events we can host and really trying to keep you engaged and the other interns engaged on a variety of levels. So in terms of on-the-ground support, once you actually arrive in, say, Seoul, for example, we've kind of reviewed this briefly, but again, a lot of the things we do provide, things like networking and social events. Again, our program team does provide that 24/7 support. God forbid there's any emergencies, anybody sick needs to go to the hospital, or just you're having issues with getting around or you need any questions answered, we have full program team there to support you. And our program management team typically likes to conduct weekly drop-in sessions with each intern just to give you a chance to talk with them one-on-one, just hear about how your internship is going. If you feel like everything is going well, how's your supervisor, how are you adapting to the new workload? And of course, if there's any questions or any issues, or you're just kind of feeling homesick or anything like that at all, our team is there to speak with you, and of course really loves to get to know each of the interns. And as an admissions advisor, somebody who speaks with you a lot before you go to the program, but not as much when you're actually on the ground, I know I love to hear about how the interns are doing, and I love to hear about how their internships are going and how they're liking their time in their location. So that's something that we definitely love to hear about as well from our admissions side. So just to briefly review the application process and kind of how it leads through you actually becoming placed in your internship. The first step, very simple, is to fill out our brief application on our website. This takes probably under 2 or 3 minutes. All you do is fill out some basic information and submit that on our website. We will then receive your application, and once you do that, you will be prompted to book an advising call with one of our admissions advisors. So that would be someone like myself. We'll want to talk to you about your interest in the program, why you chose, say, Seoul, for example, why you chose your 3 sectors. What is your experience or interest in all 3 of those sectors, kind of breaking those down just to get a better idea of what you want for an internship and what we can then subsequently pass along to our business team. We will then review your application and your advising call and determine your acceptance onto the program. If you are then indeed accepted, you will be notified via email. And once you've gone through and submitted the proper payments, you've paid your $500 acceptance fee and secured your spot on the program, and then you've also paid your first installment payment, which is roughly 50% of your tuition. We will then begin that process of placing you at a company in your chosen location. So this is just a brief graphic of the list of sectors that we offer. Currently, there are 14 total. You will see we cover a variety of areas, and within your application, we ask you to choose 3. We ask you to choose your first choice, second choice, and third choice. And again, through our internship program, you are 100% guaranteed an internship in one of those 3 sectors. So this is just a brief kind of idea of essentially with Seoul. One of the things we do like to do is also ask interns how they've been enjoying their time in, say, Seoul or Tokyo or Beijing. You can read about a lot more of these on our website. These are only a few examples, but if you want to read more examples from interns who have done similar internships in your areas of interest, I would encourage you to go on our website and read about that as well. This is just a brief overview. I kind of already described this, but the payment process, it's a very simple 3-step process. The first is a simple $500 deposit, what we call the acceptance fee, due within 1 week of you receiving your acceptance decision from us. That is essentially going to secure your spot on the program. That actually is not, it's a non-refundable deposit, but it is transferable to any other program. So if you decide to, say, apply to Tokyo and you're accepted onto the Tokyo program, but you decide to change your location or your dates or duration, that $500 is good towards any of those. And then you'll pay that, again, that first installment within 30 days of submitting that initial acceptance fee, paying about 50% of your tuition. We will then begin the placement process. And then once all has been said and done, you've been confirmed with the company, you know your internship, you know your company before you actually arrive in say, Seoul, you will then be prompted to pay the remaining tuition you owe, which is what we call kind of the final installment, within 1 week of receiving that placement confirmation. So kind of to summarize, what is the type of internship program that CRCC Asia does provide? Of course, an internship being a short-term work experience. For CRCC Asia, we can facilitate internships for either 1, 2, or 3 months. You are free to choose any of those durations. It is completely up to you as to how long you want to do the internship, but again, the max you can do is 3 months. Now, one of the things some people do ask us is, what are some of the benefits of going through a provider such as CRCC Asia as opposed to, say, me finding an internship on my own? Well, this probably wouldn't be too difficult for you to do in your home country, but if you're trying to break into an industry or, a landscape such as South Korea or Japan or Vietnam or China, this can be very difficult for a variety of reasons. One of the most obvious ones would be the language barrier. If you don't speak Korean, it's going to be quite difficult to communicate with Korean companies if they don't have a ton of English ability, which not a lot of them do. Would be very difficult for you to communicate to a recruiter, to submit your application, to submit your resume. Maybe just finding those internships, sometimes it is a little bit more difficult than just a simple Google search. Sometimes those are not always going to come up with the types of results you're looking for. The onboarding process, the application process, the resume, the introduction, the interview could be completely unfamiliar to you. And in addition to the actual job itself, you then have to find a place to live and attain your visa to allow you to actually arrive in the city and conduct your internship. You might not know any of the cultural business etiquette. You might really not have any support while you're on the ground, and that might be very scary to some people. So the benefits of going through a program like CRCC Asia is we pretty much handle everything for you. We already have a vast network of hundreds of companies on the ground in each location. We have the connections, we know the industries, we know the countries. We are able to facilitate you in an accommodation. We get all your housing solidified. We work with you to get your visa. We, of course, work with you to get that internship. We have a full program team there to support you in any emergencies or issues you may have. We have that full network of business connections, and we provide all those events, and we pick you up from the airport, bring you to the accommodation, bring you to your internship on your first day. There are just, endless benefits to going through a provider. And that's the service that we provide, is, again, to connect you to a wonderful internship in your sectors of choice. And of course, allow kind of a comprehensive cultural experience in addition to just the internship, and spending an extended period of time in a wonderful, wonderful city such as Seoul, and really trying to reap all of the benefits of that type of exchange program. So that pretty much concludes our Seoul internship overview. So I do want to thank everybody who's joined me until the end. I hope that you found this to be informative and interesting. And again, for all of those who are committed to our Seoul program, we are absolutely beyond thrilled to welcome you to Seoul in a few short months now. For those of you who are still considering the program, hopefully this was very informative. If you still have any additional questions, please feel free to email us at internships@crccasia.com, and that will go to our entire global team, and the appropriate staff member will be able to respond to your request